Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about bench pressing with a wider grip. And I know that even originally on my channel, this was a point of controversy. There are quite a few coaches out there, who are like, oh no, we need to do everything closer grip. Don't go really wide, it's hard on your shoulders. Yet the reality is, as I've gotten into wider grip benching, of course, I felt that my chest has grown more. I've had to play catch up because I used to be so much stronger with closed grip because that's all I did. But as I've done this over the years, trained longer, observed more lifters, I've come to realize a lot of that does come out of the powerlifting world, and I feel like a lot of it even comes from the equipped powerlifting world that's so tricep dominant due to the bench shirts. But that being said, I still saw J.M. Blakely point that out once to an equipped lifter in a thing. He's like, look, you need to go as wide as you can in competition. He's like, and the reason is you'll lift more weight, it'll shorten the range of motion. Okay, he goes, and this is basic physics, like you can't change physics. So you have that to think about. Of course, he was having them arch and everything, especially if you arch, I think there's a big degree of truth to that. But what we really find is that when you don't arch, a perfect example of like you saw me there benching flat back, and the same thing here on this incline set. You can't, not really much arch happening on the incline with your butt planted, right? And on the incline here, I'm touching the upper chest. But again, I'm benching very, very wide. I'm to the point where my hands are fairly close to the J-hooks, and I'm getting close to the limits of what would be allowed in a competition. Right? Why am I doing that? Because I feel more chest. I feel more chest. Of course, then I'm going in tricep work for good measure because we're going to go somewhere with that. But when I've looked at historically, a lot of lifters out there, you've noticed a lot of lifters, ones who had really big benches who were wide like that, and I'm talking in the 500 plus pound range, they tended to have massive chests. Same thing with ones who benched fairly flat back. Before people say, oh, well, you'll never lift as much that way. But there are people who have. There are guys in the 500-600 pound range who have benched that way. And some of them are not super heavy, but they all have massive chests. Right? And if you look at the chest development of a lot of the guys who've done that, it's worked. They haven't needed to go use other things to have pecs easily double or triple the size of mine. So something I want people to think about with this. Plus, you don't see the shoulder injuries. The people who get shoulder injuries on benching, it's usually due to ego lifting, incorrect technique, all sorts of stuff, right? People's shoulders aren't getting hurt by benching how you just saw me bench there. With a flat back, flat heels, controlling the weight. I'm going to argue that most shoulder injuries on the bench happen, number one, due to overuse. Number two, due to bad biomechanics or bouncing the bar. So even if you notice this touch and go I'm doing, they're very soft touch and goes, right? It's the bouncing the weight that I have found causes most of the shoulder injuries in people, along with grinding through reps they're not capable of doing and poor wrist stacking. So the other thing to note, guys, I want you guys and gals to note, you're watching that set right there. Where's the bar? It's directly over my wrist bone. It is not back in my hand. It's not in my palm. It is stacked directly over my wrist bone. This locks everything in tight. It reduces some of the shear that's on the shoulder joint. Okay, because it stacks everything above the wrist, and it keeps the bar with the center of gravity directly over your elbow, over the wrist bone, over the elbow. Right? It's much easier on your shoulders. Soft touch and goes or pauses tend to be easier on the shoulders. It's the bouncing. It's the bouncing that becomes a problem. And that's what I've seen over the years. It's ego lifting that becomes a problem. Guys aren't getting hurt for a moderate volume of this, even with ultra wide grips, if they maintain control of the weight. They're not using bad form. They're not doing these things. They're not getting hurt. Right, having to bench close grip, to protect your shoulders is usually a sign that your bench technique is bad. You're ego lifting. You're bouncing the weight, not stacked correctly. Right? There's a lot of things going on here. Then we come to the question of, well, what about triceps? Well, this is why you see me doing these heavy extensions at this point, because I need this to build my triceps. My triceps and my arms in general were still a weak link, yet you guys remember a couple years back, I got my close grip, and I mean true close grip, 16 inches apart, thumbs right there at the smooths. I got it up to 365. Okay? You guys have seen me do sets of 10 with 250 on a close grip. Yet I still didn't have massive triceps. And it was even doing all that high rep band work for them, also for the tendons. Yet my triceps weren't massive. So I'm going to postulate that maybe the close grip bench doesn't build as big a triceps as you think it might, unless you're just really genetically gifted in the triceps. Right? So why are we then focusing on a tricep dominant bench like that? If we think that's going to build our triceps, might I suggest that you come in and actually build the triceps? And quit worrying about your pressing being a primary tricep builder. Yes, it's going to contribute over time. But come in and work the triceps separate. You're going to get more mileage out of it. Stop worrying about, is my pressing going to build triceps? Yeah, it'll contribute. But what I think is interesting for me, it's supposedly, when you look at the data, the lateral head grows the most from benching. But I still didn't have a massive lateral head. Arms still stayed my weakest link. All this chest pressing really is for chest. It really is. And now I can grow delts and stuff too. But that's if you make it more delt dominant. Keep it out wide, guys. Build your chest. Build your chest and use your chest to bench out of the bottom. Even if you're going to later compete or something with an arch for a max. That wide group's going to carry over. It's still going to carry over. Right? And so again, what I would suggest is pick efficient tricep exercises that build your whole tricep and do those after you're pressing. Because again, in my experience, if you're like me and you do not have great arm genetics, even the close grip bench, getting it up pretty strong, may not build as much tricep as you like. Granted, you start close grip benching, 500 pounds, sure. But I can tell you right now, even a 365 clean close grip still isn't enough to have massive triceps.